rolling, slishing and a splashing over the horizon. What can it be? The Pilgrims sailed the sea to find a place to call their own. In their ship Mayflower, they hoped to find a better home. They finally knocked on Plymouth Rock, and someone said, "We're there." It may not look like home, but at this point I don't care. Oh, they were missing Mother England. They swore their loyalty until the very end. Anything you say, King, it's okay, King. You know it's kind of scary on your own. Gonna build a new land the way we planned. Could you help us run it till it's grown? They planted corn, you know, they built their houses one by one. And bit by bit they worked until the colonies were done. They looked around, yeah, up and down, and someone said, "Hooray! If the king could only see us now, he would be proud of us today." They knew that now they'd run their own land. But George III still vowed he'd rule them to the end. Anything I say, do it my way now. Anything I say, do it my way. Don't you get to feeling independent, 'cause I'm gonna force you to obey. He taxed their property, he didn't give them any choice. And back in England, he didn't give them any voice. That's called taxation without representation, and it's not fair. But when the colonies complained, the king said, "I don't care." He even has the nerve to tax our cup of tea. To put it kindly, King, we really don't agree. Gonna show you how we feel. We're gonna dump this tea and turn this harbor into the biggest cup of tea in history. They wanted no more Mother England. They knew the time had come for them to take command. It's very clear you're being unfair, King. No matter what you say, we won't obey. Gonna hold a revolution now, King, and we're gonna run it all away with no more king.
We're gonna elect a president.
No more king.
He's gonna do what the people want.
No more king.
We're gonna run things our way.
No more king.
Nobody's gonna tell us what to do.
Rocking and a rolling, slishing and a splashing over the horizon. What can it be? Looks like it's going to be a free country.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. If you just email me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. If you like our show, be sure and check out our Patreon, the Opperman Report Patreon. If you go there right now, get some really good content up there right now. In fact, we have the Alaskan Avenger. Okay? We got the Alaskan Avenger up there. What else do we got? Mike Parziali's up there right now. We had MJVictims.com. We had Mike Parziali come back. He's been doing our show for about 10 years now. He's an expert on the Michael Jackson case. And he hooked me up. I'm going to be interviewing an insider with Michael Jackson who worked for Jackson, who has a lot of things to say. I'm going to be taping that this week. By the way, that was the music, intro music was Schoolhouse Rock. I forget which one that is, but I don't know. A lot of people, I get a lot of compliments and comments about the music I play at the beginning of the show and the end of the show. So I don't know. I just felt like playing it. Maybe some people need to learn about it. Schoolhouse Rock did educate a lot of people over the years. Maybe we should bring it back. Back to Patreon. I have up there it's about 130 pages of actual report of the Jack Smith Report, Volume 1, the election case report on efforts to interfere with the lawful transfer of power following the 2020 presidential election, or the certification of the electoral college votes held on January 6, 2021. Now, I read the whole thing. It's like 180 pages, but there's really only about 130 pages of actual reporting on the investigation. The rest is commentary on the legal wranglings back and forth and a lot of nonsense. Unfortunately, there's really nothing new in there. I was very disappointed. I was expecting to hear some new investigation, but there's really nothing there. There's nothing about the Hill cops' involvement. I'm convinced the Capitol Hill police were, at least had some key players that were involved in the coup, who had advanced knowledge of the coup and assisted in the coup attempt. The whole thing about Lieben Good, the guy who committed suicide, the guy's father was a sergeant at arms, and then he went to work for Manafort and Stone. And Manafort's company was also the one that did the event planning for that stunt there. There was all kinds of stuff about they never called in the National Guard. And one of the reasons why they couldn't is because Michael Flynn's brother was one of the people in the chain of command that they would have to go through him. So there's a lot of stuff, man. And, it's pretty well-known stuff. It's just not in the report. They don't want to touch a lot of stuff. And it's a shame, Maybe in history, we'll have more come out. But unfortunately, right now, there isn't. But that's up there in the Opperman Report Patreon. And don't forget, every Friday night, if you want to hear all the archives and all the old shows, you go to Spreaker.com. And I do a solo show there, 8 p.m., hours straight. I'm looking for a way to broadcast that live, to go back to doing the live stuff. And then there's 2 hours of brand new content. So I got to tell you, since they took away the live feature, man, I've lost a lot of money. My income on the podcast is down about 50% right now. So I'm just hoping something will turn around. I don't know what would make it turn around, but that's just where we are now. Okay. So let's see. What else is in Patreon? The Alaskan Avenger. Okay, the Alaskan Avenger is an interesting story. It's this fellow, Vukovic, Jason Vukovic. Really nice guy. He's only been out of prison like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And I'm very lucky to get him to come on the show. He's got a YouTube channel called The Alaskan Avenger, too, as well. Now, he's actually not. He's still in prison. He's on a tether, on an ankle monitor outside of the prison, but it's supervised release. So he's still serving his actual sentence. And it'll be another year and a half, and then he'll get 5 years probation, parole. Now, his situation, this guy here, he had a very rough childhood. He was abused as a child, he and his brother. And then when he grew up, he was, had a lot of stuff out in the streets, drugs, violence. And he gets this idea in his head. He's going to look up sex offenders on the registry and go to their house. One guy went to his house with a hammer and put the beat down on these guys. So they charge him with 3 cases, but it seems like, the way he was talking, it sounds like there may have been a bunch of more of these batteries on these convicted sex offenders, these registered sex offenders. So anyway, I really enjoyed that interview with Alaskan Avenger, and he sounds like he's doing good. And he's, this whole supervised release and parole, it's designed for failure, and it sounds like he's taking all the right steps to stay out of trouble and to make it this next 6.5 years. Man, it's not easy. Even parole, they can search you whenever they want. They can pull you over. They can do whatever they want, man. They can look in your phone and show up at your door, knock on your door, just walk in. So it's a tough game. We're going to be taping this week coming up with Walter Herbst. He's an expert on JFK, and he's got some new information about David Ferrie and stuff. It looks like some really good stuff. In fact, I shared it on my Facebook page, and it looks like he has a new book coming out regarding this topic, too, as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Walter Herbst is a great guest. We're very lucky to have him. Now, tonight we have 2 shows. Who's this guy here? What's his name? McHenry. I forget his first name. Oh, I can go right here and find it. Keith McHenry, who is from Food Not Bombs. And so we know a lot of the people, because I know people from Food Not Bombs from Vegas. And so we were talking about that, I think, off the air, though. So we know a lot of the same people. We know a lot of the same yippies I knew and stuff like that. He's a little bit older than me. And so he wrote this article in Covert Action magazine called The Plot to Intern Homeless Americans. And he even gets into some stuff with Peter Thiel. I don't know if it's Peter Thiel or Peter Thiel, but I hear people use both the pronunciations. So we got along great. I'd love to have him come back and just pick his mind about different topics. He's very good, great. It was a really good interview. And he's a very interesting guy, too, and a very well-spoken storyteller. Then we have Abel Tomlinson, Radical Change in the U.S., Prospects for Domestic Revolution. So again, there's a couple of leftist guys here. Tonight's show is both leftists. So I know, and it's a shame. So much of the audience will say, "Oh, Ed, I don't agree with your politics." And then when we do a couple of shows here talking about my politics, that we're against interning homeless Americans. Oh, and I don't understand your politics. But then when we do a show about my politics, they don't listen. Because no, Ed, the Venezuelans, what do you call it? Eating zebras over there in Venezuela. It doesn't work. Like the simplest stuff. It is just so funny. So 2 good shows tonight. I'm very proud of both of those shows. And the 2 shows coming next week, Mike Parziale and the Alaskan Avenger, both those are 2 good shows too. The one I'm recording this week is going to be a good show. I know this guy's a good guy. It's really good information. This Michael Jackson guy, I don't think he's done an interview. So we have a lot of good content for you coming up. Plus the recent content I'm really proud of too. Joe Francis. Joe Francis tells us exclusively about his friendship with Elon Musk and Donald Trump. About how Donald Trump contacted him when he was doing his Girls Gone Wild stuff. And by the way, listen close to that interview about when he started dating Paris Hilton. Okay, he let some stuff slip. Nice guy, I like him, but he's out there doing stuff. So he talks about how when he's doing this Girls Gone Wild videos, Donald Trump contacts him 3 times, is trying to get through to him. Finally gets a hold of him, and they hang out together all day long. They're just a couple of pervs, So that was a good one. And then I had the guy of the Matt Gaetz, the fellow who was being stalked by Joel Greenberg, that got the whole Matt Gaetz investigation started. I don't know, man. I don't know anybody else doing this. I don't know anybody else bringing this kind of info. And the stuff we're going to be talking about tonight is the Venezuelan coup. There's some new developments with that. Mel Gibson and Sylvester Stallone. And again, these are 3 topics I've been talking about on this show for years. The Venezuelan coup I've been talking about since 2020. Hugely underreported story. We're going to be getting into that tonight. And then the Sylvester Stallone, the story about him with his half-sister. And there were tape recordings of that, too, tape recorded conversations that part of the deal was that he had to, they had to destroy those tapes. So we're doing on time here. I'm hoping maybe. I found this place, because now that I don't have to play these shows live, I can schedule them. So I'm thinking I want to go down to this comedy club down here in Florida and check it out. It's like a really cheap cover charge. And I used to love going to comedy clubs when I was living in New York. The Comedy Cellar and Pips and stuff like that in Sheepshead Bay. Dangerfields. Grandpa's, man, I love those places, man. I'd go there for open night and stuff, open mic. Hang around with the comedians at the bar. Alaskan Avenger. Oh, and real quick, another thing where people were reaching out to me all week long was about my friend who lost her house at the Palisades fire. I was hoping to tape with her. Okay, but she's in no condition to tape. And also, too, when you go through a trauma like this, and some of her, when you go through a horrible trauma like this, you make bad decisions. That's just a fact. Okay, it's a chemical thing with the melatonin and serotonin and all that kind of stuff. And she's making some really bad decisions, but you can't blame her because she's practically living out of her car. Or sleeping at the yoga studios, which isn't a very comfortable way to sleep and stuff like that. And then she had to go to some motel rooms. So she's bouncing around there really bad, okay? Lost everything, except for what's in her car. Or 3 dogs, okay? It's not a big car either. Now, one of the things that's... And she's telling me all this stuff about P. Diddy's house burning down. Stuff that's just total... been debunked, and nonsense about the blue roofs and stuff like that don't burn. Stuff that's been totally debunked. She's telling me all this stuff and in hysteria and a panic in her voice. So it's really, really stressful. And here I am. I'm trying to tell her, hey, listen, there's lawsuits out there right now. There's 2 potential lawsuits right now that are floating around. One is against the water company for their failure to maintain the water supply for the hydrants. But that's kind of a weak suit because from what I understand is there was only like 1 million gallons in there, or it might have been 100 million, but about 1 million gallons or whatever, and you need like 100,000 gallons just for one house fire. So you're not going to use hydrants to put out a forest fire, or this kind of a wildfire. Just you need like 100,000 gallons for one. So they wouldn't have been enough to save 2,000, 4,000 houses, no matter what, if every hydrant was to the brim, The other one is the local power company did not turn off the juice to these power lines that then collapsed and caused fires. There's a lot of those are the two potential lawsuits if you're out there, but that are floating around out there, man. But because she doesn't have enough homeowners insurance to cover her, she has enough to cover the mortgage, but not to cover the whole loss of the house. And they've been paying off that mortgage since she was like 5 years old. So not a good situation. Okay. Have you been watching these confirmation hearings this week? These are the craziest cabinet position confirmation hearings I've ever seen in my life, where these people are totally unqualified. This Hegseth character, and then they're asking them these powder puff questions. We had that woman today, Christy Nome, who shot her puppy. She had that big giant mass grave for animals on her farm that she'd be killing animals left and right. She killed a horse, killed a goat. It's a serial killer, man. Pam Bondi, man, she was one of the Trump's election lawyers. And when she was Attorney General of Florida, she was on board with the Trump University. She was going to be on board with that too and go after him on that. And then suddenly she got a big donation, changed her mind. So I hate to be like a misogynist, or what. But watching Pam Bondi, it reminds me of that. Remember that beauty pageant girl? When they asked her about education, she said, well, some countries like the USA and Africa, and Australia don't have maps, and this crazy answer she get with Mario. I think it was Mario P. was there trying to hold in his laughter. Now, she was a very young girl when that happened. She's very embarrassed about it, too. And I'm sure Pam Bondi, when she was that same age, came up with a similar answer, because some of her answers at this age were not much better. Okay. Okay, good. Oh, okay. We'll leave that stuff till the end. Okay, let's get back here. Let's go to the Rudy Giuliani comes out today, and he says he settled his lawsuit with those two poll workers that he defamed. He settled his lawsuit with them. They've come to a financial settlement, and he gets to keep his personal items. He keeps his condo in New York, and he keeps his condo in Florida. So now when I hear this, my first reaction is, well, where'd that money come from? This guy's broke. Where did he suddenly get an influx of money to settle with these women? Now, clearly the guy's broke. Okay, clearly the guy is broke. He might have like $1 million or $2 million stashed. Really, escape money, ransom money. He may have a couple of bucks stashed, but not enough to pay this massive judgment with these women. So he got somehow came in a big influx of money. So what else happened this week? I want you to go back and look at my old reporting on the Venezuelan coup. And if you just Google Opperman, Spreaker, Venezuelan coup, Trump private security, coke dealers, okay, it'll come up. You'll find it. Because basically that failed attempted Venezuelan coup down there was run by a guy named Jordan Goudreau. Okay? Now, he's not one of those Guaido or Maduro, all those names. No, this is a guy from Canada. He's Special Forces, United States. and he runs a company called Silvercore, which is a mercenary company just like Blackwater. And Silvercore, he's also friends with Keith Schiller, Trump's head of security, NYPD. I've told you about Keith Schiller many, many times. Jordan Goudreau, buddies with Keith Schiller. He got mixed up with some people with Venezuela, and he was doing private security for Trump's rallies. Okay, and I just saw them recently. They're at one of the rallies too, so they still are. All right, and back when all this came up with the coup, the Venezuelan attempted coup that was put down by the angry fishermen, I said right away, man, when I started looking into all this stuff, it was very clear that the motivation for that coup was Rudy Giuliani's buddies, his clients, who were coke dealers and money launderers. These big, rich, one of these coke dealers was like 200. What was this? Let me find this. It was a huge amount of coke. This guy was running a year. And I'm out of breath, man. $250 metric tons of cocaine every year to the United States. 250 tons. A ton is 2,000 pounds. So 2,000 is like 500,000 pounds. I can't even do the math. When I started doing a radio show, they told me there would be no math. Okay, they promised me. So here we find it now. Anyway, so why am I bringing this up? Why am I bringing this all back up? What makes me think something's going on here that connects Rudy's coming in, this new tapped money coming into Rudy here, and this fellow here, Goudreau. What's going on, Ed, right? What's going on? Okay. Goudreau got busted. He's from Tampa, by the way. He's not far from me here, okay? And there's no one else talking about this stuff but me. Yeah, this guy runs a mercenary company that their job is to kill people and overthrow governments. But does that stop me from talking about it? No. So the guy gets busted for, smuggling weapons and possession of a machine gun, all these charges they got there surrounding this coup attempt, right? So he's on trial now. They just filed a motion in court, in open court, where Goudreau says that he was instructed to stage this coup based on the instructions of the executive branch of government in the United States of America when Trump was the president of the United States, the executive branch of government. So basically he's saying in his motion, hey, I was told to do this by Donald Trump and the people around him. And who are those people? Rudy Giuliani, who's the lawyer for these other co-conspirators in this coup attempt. Now, I did this reporting years ago, man. And I always said, this is such reporting. How come nobody else is talking about this? Or, that kind of stuff upsets me sometimes. So here we are now. The guy admits it in court. In open court. Yeah, I did the coup. They told me to. Trump told me to. He doesn't mention Giuliani, but I suspect that's why this money changed hands this week, and that's how Giuliani came into this money. Yeah, 250 metric tons of coke. That's a lot of money, Got her out of here, So, seems like something's going on there. So I know you haven't heard about this admission in court that the coup was ordered by the executive branch. I just happened to stumble upon it. But this other reporting I did in this previous reporting for you on the Venezuelan coup and Trump's private security, Silvercorp, and Rudy's coke dealing and money laundering clients. All right. My reporting was just proven true. Okay, factual, 100%, because the guy who was on the hook for this, the defendant in this case, just agreed with me. Okay? But nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about it. It's so frustrating to do this kind of work. It really is, man. Let me see how we're doing on time. I just want to give up. I've had some really personal setbacks in my life recently that I haven't talked about at all. That's just really sad stuff, really sad personal stuff I'm dealing with. And I have to I'm grieving a loss, like from the time I wake up in the morning till the time I go to bed almost every single day of the week. So it's very difficult to get all worked up about this stuff anymore. And then, we hear Biden is, what was that speech last night? What would you call that? His farewell speech? And he's talking about how, the checks and balances we have in our government are chipping away, and that country's becoming an oligarchy run by billionaires for billionaires, and it's right, man. It is so disturbing to see what's going on in the future, and these crazy confirmation hearings are a perfect example. And it's just so terrifying to see what's going to happen in the next 4 years, and if we'll ever have another transition of power at all after this. I think Trump may be the last president, and then maybe Trump Jr. will get in there. By the way, that whole story about Donald Trump Jr. and that weird trip to Greenland. You got to Google that, man. There's some really fascinating reporting about that, where they show up in this little town in Greenland and opened up the bar, and they were giving free beers and free drinks to everybody who would come in and put on a Trump hat and dance the Trump MAGA dance. Okay. You know what I mean, man? Just crazy, crazy, crazy stuff going on, man. Like never before in the history of our country. And I'll give you one right now. Mr. Trump appoints Mel Gibson, Sylvester Stallone, and John Voight to the office of Hollywood liaison. So, whatever. They're going to be the Hollywood czars, right, for Hollywood. And lately you're seeing all this crazy stuff about Mel Gibson, about how he's exposing the pedophilia, and he's look at it, Mel Gibson on Fox News Live exposing the source of these fires, and all this conspiracy about this and conspiracy about that. Okay, I'm going to be putting up in Patreon all of the audio tapes, okay, of Mr. Mel Gibson and his mail-order bride that he had a kid with, and how he was so abusive to this poor woman, okay? And at one point he says, if you don't blow me, I'm going to burn the house down. You got a guy who lives in Malibu screaming at the top of his lungs about burning the house down, and then there's a big fire here. Well, let's listen to this guy. He's a sane person to listen to, right? People, I don't know what they think, that somehow these people, just because they're in Hollywood or something like that, they're on a TV show or a movie, that somehow they have inside information to things that you and I can't have access to. Okay, that's just not how it works. Now, the other woman that Mel Gibson was abusing was a model. I think she did some porn too or something like that. Violet Cowell. Okay, now in the Small World department, okay. Violet Cowell, and by the way, both of these women are like Russian, okay? The one he's abusing on these tapes, who I think is the mother of his kid, and then this other poor woman, Violet Cowell. And it was like a pay-to-play relationship with both of these women. Violet wound up living with Gina Rodriguez, who was also the agent for Stormy Daniels and all these other things, all this other stuff that's going on out there. Okay, so that's how I know. That's how I met her. Okay, that's how I know. She lived with my friend. She lives with my client. Okay, this is how I know this stuff. Not from Googling, not from TikTok. Okay, which is really terrifying too. The amount of information that people are getting from TikTok about the conspiracy with the fires and some of it is just so simplistic and just such garbage, man. It's heartbreaking. Breaks my heart, man, that especially these kind of topics, these conspiracy topics that I've spent my life engrossed in it and met all the players in it and all the stuff like that, and now it's just like this little throwaway nonsense. You can say the craziest thing and get 500,000 hits, and people, oh, did you hear that? Like it's real or something like that. So Mel Gibson is an abusive man, okay? And you could hear it on the tapes. And I'm going to take all those tapes. There's a lot of profanity in it. So I'm going to put it up on Spreaker, on Patreon, with a big disclaimer saying, hey, if you listen to this stuff, there's a lot of profanity. But there's about 5 or 6 tapes, about an hour's worth of tape of we gotta make the jacuzzi. We were supposed to have sex in the jacuzzi. Where were you? Just crazy, hysterical ranting and ravings of a total madman with his veins popping out. You could hear his voice. I've had a lot of fights with women, man. I tell you, I've never lost my stuff as bad as you can listen to Mel Gibson losing his stuff. Man, over a woman, and his personal sex life that he's paying for. You know what I mean? Oh, God. It's just, it's the craziest stuff in the world. So we're doing it time here. Oh, my God. The other one that Mr. Trump appoints is Sylvester Stallone. Now, first of all, I know a guy. In fact, we all know a guy. Anybody who's in these circles and in these groups with me on Facebook and stuff like that, we all know a guy who was the brother of a famous guy and a well-known name in these circles. And this guy did work in Sylvester Stallone's house, and they put in cameras in the ceilings of all the different rooms, okay? That's Sylvester Stallone for you. And this is just recently. And by the way, too, I met his wife. I forget her name now. And she was complaining about him cheating on her. Okay. I can't remember. Jennifer Flavin. Okay. Now, but the story about Sylvester Stallone that should be the first thing you think of when you hear the name Sylvester Stallone is that he paid, back in the time of Rocky and Rambo, back in those times in the 80s, he paid his half-sister $16 million, okay? And then $16,000 a month, and then $50,000 per year. The $16 million was a settlement. Then it was another $16,000 a month, and then the $50,000 was for therapy and medical treatments for the year. I guess it was earmarked for that. Now, part of this settlement in this negotiation with his half sister to keep her mouth shut and sign this NDA, she's dead now, by the way, was that they were to destroy some audio cassette tapes of conversations. Now, that makes me think that he made some admissions on these tapes, these conversations, and that's why he paid all this money to have them destroyed. Okay? And these were sexual allegations of his little half-sister. Okay? So now, okay, well, you know what, man, maybe he didn't want to. $16 million was nothing to him back in the 80s, and he had all this money, Rambo, Rocky. Maybe, he felt sorry for her, But the tapes, well, maybe there was something he was sneezing on the tapes. You don't want people to, that he'd think he was dying of pneumonia. Who knows? But then there was another incident in Vegas where he was accused of raping a 16-year-old girl. And I think there was another money settlement in that one, so I didn't look that one up this time. I just looked up the $16 million. Okay, well, you figure that would be enough, right? So, and these are the people that Trump is appointing. Mel Gibson, and people think Mel Gibson is somehow an advocate for abused children or sexual exploitation or something like that. That's what he's doing. And it's on tape. You don't have to believe me. The whole world's upside down. The whole world's upside down. There's just no other way to say it. And my health is just getting so bad, man. It's not even funny anymore. Oh, by the way, too, man, I don't know if you know this, but this inauguration, it's going to be happening, I think it's Monday, right? Well, it would be the 20th. So that would be Friday and Monday, yeah. They have a whole metal fence around the whole, a huge area of D.C. and that you're not allowed to enter. Things are so crazy. Just imagine 20 years ago, we'd be putting up metal fences around the Capitol building, around the White House. They had that fence in that park they took over. Because when I was a kid, you could drive right up and park right next to the White House, man. There were parking meters there. So now it's just a whole new world, man. It's just a whole new world. Just kind of chaos. And then this madman, his official White House photo looks like his mugshot. God. Troops, drones, and fences. Security fears around the White House for the, what's that called? The inauguration. God. I don't think I have much more in my notes. And it's freezing over here too, man. Coming up tonight, like I said, is Keith McHenry, The Plot to Intern Homeless Americans. And then Abel Tomlinson, Radical Change in the U.S. Prospects for Domestic Revolution. 2 really good shows I'm proud of. And tomorrow I'll replay some of that Venezuelan coup stuff for you, okay? If you go to Spreaker.com. I think I got a little fever. Okay, looks like there's not much left. One thing I'd like to say. You know what? I'm not going to tell you. I got I had a little incident this week, man. I'm going to hold back on that. We'll see how things turn out. If there's an indictment. Okay, we'll wait on that. Okay. Because I went to pick up some vegan ricotta cheese. See, before I became vegan, right, one of my big dishes was lasagna, and another big dish was my baked ziti with the sausage in there. So I still like to, make the baked ziti, with the vegan sausage and with the vegan ricotta cheese and the vegan mozzarella cheese and marinara sauce. And I make a great, trust me, man, people love my stuff, okay? And that's nothing. People think I can't cook. People listen to the show, say, Ed Opperman cook, oh my goodness. You guys know nothing about me, and it's been 11 years, and I talk about myself all the time. It's just amazing. That's how I get away with that joke every year about the turkey, about how to defrost the turkey. Everyone thinks I'm serious. But trust me, I'm a great cook, man. I had a family. I cooked my family for years. I've been carving a turkey since I'm 15, 16 years old, man. My uncle taught me how to carve a turkey. Oh, God, it's so funny. But my life of making baked ziti has taken a turn, okay? Because I got this new recipe, man. And what you do is you put the mozzarella cheese in there with some vegan almond milk, right? And then you put some Parmesan cheese, vegan Parmesan cheese in that too. And you liquefy it. You make like a little cream sauce out of it. And you put that on the noodles and the ziti before you, and then you scoop in some ricotta cheese, just like normal. And then you mix in the sauce, the meat, but the vegan meat. But to that, man, it's a whole new, because I'm not a big cheese guy either, but this comes out really, really good, man. You liquefy that mozzarella, because vegan mozzarella cheese doesn't really melt the way regular mozzarella cheese does. So this is like a whole new ball game for me, cooking this baked ziti. And my problem is, what I do is when I make something good and I like it, I'll make that same thing every night for a month. Okay, and sometimes it's not even a month. Sometimes it's like 3 months. And I'll eat the same favorite dish until I get so sick of it I can't eat it anymore. Okay, guys, like I was saying, we are down significantly, both in Patreon. We're down a little bit in Patreon. But the Spreaker money, the Spreaker ad money is down so much. We're down 50%. So if you can share the link and stuff like that, and I'm putting up good stuff, man. It's Alaskan Adventure. It's exclusive. Joe Francis meeting with Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and what was the other one too? Quincy Jones. The stuff I got out of him about Paris Hilton. I got a lot of good information out of this guy. And we're still friends. I can get more. So I don't know. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm so shadow banned all over the place. If you're a member at Patreon, it is the best way to find the old classic shows. That's for sure. Because so much is just shadow banned and on Google and stuff like that. You're not going to find my information. My old shows. I don't even think we upload to YouTube anymore. I can't even keep track of that kind of stuff anymore. TikTok is gone. TikTok is out the window now. There seems to be some kind of hope that maybe Trump can just tell the Department of Justice not to prosecute anybody for broadcasting TikTok, or I don't know, man. We'll find out Monday, I guess, because the Supreme Court ruled today, and it seems like TikTok is over. But if you can help share the Spreaker links when you see them on Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that, that would be a huge help for me to get those shows out there and people listening to those ads and get a little cash in there for me. So, okay, guys, I'm going to take off. And I'll play the outro song. And if I think of anything else, I'll come back on here and get a little more wrap up for you. But if not, good night, and I love you, and I'll talk to you next week.
Hey, do you know about the USA? Do you know about the government? Can you tell me about the Constitution? Hey, learn about the USA. In 1787, I'm told our founding fathers did agree to write a list of principles for keeping people free. The USA was just starting out, a whole brand new country. And so our people spelled it out, the things that we should be. And they put those principles down on paper and called it the Constitution. And it's been helping us run our country ever since then. The first part of the Constitution is called the Preamble and tells what those founding fathers set out to do. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. In 1787, I'm told our founding fathers all sat down and wrote a list of principles that's known the world around. The USA was just starting out, a whole brand new country. And so our people spelled it out. They wanted a land of liberty. And the preamble goes like this. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America, for the United States of America.
Well, it turns out I did find one more topic for you, and I didn't know about this. I just found out about this just now. That in this lawsuit against this guy Keith, what's his full name? This guy, the cop, and the Dwayne Keith D. Davis, right? who has gone on all these different radio shows and stuff like that, confessing for the magazines and things, confessing to the murder of Tupac Shakur. And he says Diddy has been named 47 times in secretly recorded police interview accusing him of offering millions for the murder of Tupac and record boss Suge Knight. Now, that was in Keith Davis's motion to dismiss, and then the prosecution came back with another 180 pages saying, look at all the times this guy confessed all over the place. He confessed to being involved in Shukat's murder in nearly every form imaginable. Okay. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff going on. I don't know. I've talked to some people, and they don't think this Keith Davis is. They think he's just a talker who now wound up with his problem there in court. And I can tell you that Suge Knight had a lot of power in Las Vegas, man. He was a UNLV football player. And then he had David Chessoff as his attorney. And he even had a prosecutor working for him in California. He rented an apartment from him. Suge Knight had a lot of power. He had a lot of power, okay, in Vegas. All right, guys. And this is where now Keith Davis is getting prosecuted in Vegas, is the point I'm trying to make. All right, guys. Good night. I love you.